All right, well, let's just have a quick introduction so everyone knows who's here. I'm Sally, I'm the chair of the Energy Committee. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Excuse me. I'm Mike Gorey, Bristol Energy Committee.
And Steve Wisbaum? You can say something if you want, like who you are.
Sally was reached out to me to see if I could offer anything, any advice or encouragement or ideas for spreading the Mo Electric message, and it turns out that I've been doing that for 4 years, both just as the Northeast sales rep for a company that sells electric lawnmowers called Mean Green Mowers, which is the mowers that how I know Jay uses. And I was doing that for 4 years, and then they were purchased by DR Power, which is owned by Generac, and they have a dealer network, and I kind of knew this was going to come at some point. And they didn't need my services anymore. So now I'm just doing this, because I believe in it, which is why I got into it at the beginning. It just was nice, the prospect of making a little money from it. But so now it's just doing the advocacy, which is fine with me. So yeah.
Great. Thanks. Maybe we'll go to Jay, since you just sort of introduced Jay's name anyway.
Hello all, I'm Jay Thomas, and I own and operate Bear Mountain Mowing, and I've been doing all electric mowing in Addison County I'm going into my 6th year now. So like Stephen said, I've been using the Mean Green equipment all that time, and big fan of the electric mowing.
Great, thanks for showing up. Let's see, we've got a couple people from solar, 3 people maybe. Chris Cadwell.
Yes, hi, I'm Chris Cadwell with Green Peak Solar, here to present to you all an update on a project that we're proposing in Bristol. Very, very excited to be back. Thanks for having us.
Sure. And Nathaniel?
Sorry,
Even though it says Lindsay?
I'm on my wife's computer. It's got a little better webcam. Anyway, I'm Nathaniel Van Dyke, Chris's business partner and co-owner of Green Peak Solar. And as Chris said, we're here to talk to you guys about a solar project we've proposed in Bristol.
Great. And Troy Parody. Oh, he's in the dark now.
Well, I keep getting booted out of every room in my house. So I'm now in room 3, hopefully the last room. Hi, I'm Troy Parody. I'm a village dweller. I have a couple houses in the village, so I'm interested from just a personal standpoint about how to be better to the environment and do something for my own properties, but also as a member of the board of the Bristol Rec Club. We mow a lot of grass in town frequently. So I just feel like we should be as part of the town. We should also be educating ourselves about what we could always do better there in the big picture of things. And Porter Night also probably echoes both of those things from me.
Yeah, go. Thank you, Troy. Go ahead, Porter.
I'm just here as a public citizen. My lawnmower is getting old, and the person who mows my lawn is getting older, and he's not, he's graduated from college and probably won't mow my lawn anymore. So I might have to mow my own lawn or hire somebody to mow my lawn. And so if I'm going to replace my mower, I thought this would be an interesting conversation. So just here to hear.
Great. Thanks for coming. And Ralph, I don't know who you are, but feel free to pipe in and tell us who you are if you want.
I'm just here to learn.
Great. welcome. All right, let's go ahead and start. Steve, if you want to start your presentation about electric lawn mowing and the benefits and challenges and all that.
So I'm going to screen
You
share.
want to screen share?
Yeah, I'll screen share. I've never done
So
that
let me make sure I've
before,
got you.
but
Let me, let's see. Trying to,
well, I think I might be able to do it on my end, right? Or do you have to let me?
okay. I don't need to help you. I mean, I don't have to
most
say, okay,
disabled
you can do it.
So, okay, you do need to, I'm disabled. So
Yeah.
you need to,
Yeah.
you've disabled participant screen sharing. So
Oh,
you
I
need
see.
to
Security. I
try
got
it
it right
again.
here. There you go. Yeah,
All right.
you should be able to do it now.
So here we go. So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Again,
All right, now I'm going to go to view, slideshow. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Everyone see it? Yeah,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
So this was as you can see from the bottom, this was a PowerPoint I did at VCAN back in 2019. My company, Eco Equipment Supply, is where you see that logo. So anyway, as you can see, reducing greenhouse gas emissions with electric lawn care equipment, opportunities and challenges. So I'm going to just buzz through this very quickly. It's not that long, but the thing that really struck me when I got into this was just I had a sense that there was a lot of fuel being burned and a lot of CO2 emissions, but until I started to do some look at the numbers, it really hit home. Just what a huge opportunity there is for reducing greenhouse gas emissions through changing lawn care practices. So there's some numbers there. It's a lot. And then I've got some nationally, and then I did some down at the bottom on the right. You can see Vermont's lawn care. I just kind of came up with those numbers. They're estimates. No one's done any studies. It could be, my sense is probably more than that, but it's 15 gallons an acre per season. And that's figuring about 23 mows. And so it's really important to think about the difference between commercial lawn mowers and residential lawn mowers. And when the term commercial refers to any lawnmower that these like high horsepower mowers that you see contractors use, municipalities, rec departments, public works departments, those mowers that are 24 to 36 horsepower, usually they're either sit down riding or you can ride on the back of them, stand on mowers like Jay has. And then there's some also walk behind mowers. It looks similar to the old country home, the DR mowers, those brush and field mowers, but the heavy duty ones. So anyway, just wanted to make sure that was clear. And then I thought it was really valuable to help people see what the difference is between electric and gas. And so I'll just do this really, and I'm happy to share this slideshow with anybody afterwards. And a lot of this information is on my website also under the Why Electric section. So these numbers, 650 hours. Hey, Jay, I'm assuming Jay might be using his mowers a little bit less than 650, but that's just based on, like figuring 5 hours a day or 5-6 hours a day, 5 days a week times 23 weeks. That's where the 650 comes from. And then the 2.8 kilowatts per hour, that's mean green. That's what they have rated the amount of electricity one of their mowers uses. And that's a 24, 36 horsepower mower. So, you could it's just math. And then, so that's electric. And then there's the 0.26 pounds per pounds CO2. I don't know why it says pounds per CO2, but that's wrong. I'm just noticing that 0.26 pounds. That's actually should be per kilowatt hour. So the Vermont Department of A&R did some research to look at what is the greenhouse gas emissions from a kilowatt of electricity that's consumed in Vermont. And that takes into account the production, and that it's also sort of going to be a balance between, what the portfolio is, like how much of that electricity is coming from renewable sources versus non-renewable sources. But anyway, so that's where that 0.26 comes up. And then the gas mower, you're looking at, it's in the range of 0.75 to 1.5 or 1.25 gallons per hour, a typical one of these bigger mowers. So again, so it's 728 gallons, and these are just estimates, but the 20 pounds of CO2 per gallon was kind of a shocker for me when I started to do this. You ask most people, even people who are involved on energy committees and who work in this, who are advocating for reduced greenhouse gas emissions, most people really don't know how many pounds of CO2 is produced by burning a gallon of gas. And it's 20 pounds. And the reason that it's more than 8 pounds, which is about the weight of a gallon of water, let's say, is because it's CO2. So for every molecule or atom of carbon that's burned, it requires 2 atoms of oxygen. So that's why it ends up being 20. And it actually is a little bit more for diesel, I think, but I just took an average here. So, and then I just did this, figuring 10 electric mowers saving 7 tons of CO2 or 1,000, it's just cumulative. And I did the graphic to really to make it clear that it's the amount of CO2 is produced by an electric mower is a fraction. There is some, but it's a fraction of the amount of CO2 from a gas or diesel mower. Okay, so since I put this slide together, there's probably another 5 mowers out there that are made. It's all of a sudden in the last decade, if any of you have been tracking this, all the manufacturers are producing very high quality electric residential mowers. And it started right here in Vermont, I think, with Newton, right? Did Country Home Products, I think they were the ones that came out initially with the Newton. And I still meet people who still have some of those Newtons kicking around. It's pretty amazing. But the battery technology has really improved considerably. Runtime, power, these things are really well built, and so there's a lot of choices out there. And if you're looking for a comparison, there's a great, I found this guy, actually a customer told me about it. He's online, he has a YouTube channel, and it's something Army, and he does these wonderful comparisons of different technologies, electric blowers, electric mowers, and he's funny. I highly recommend it. And what he comes out with, the ego seems to be pretty high performance, but I have the steel, I like it. But most of these are going to work well for most people. And they're in the $150 to $650 range. And then these are the residential riding mowers, as distinct from commercial riding mowers. And the one on the left, the American Power Products, they've been threatening to come out and introduce theirs for years, and I don't know what's going on, but it's still, I don't think it's out yet. The Ryobi is available from Home Depot. I know a couple people who own them and they're happy with them. They're nothing like, you know, they're a little slower than the Mean Green, but, and then I don't even know if Troy-Bilt's still making theirs, but, and Mean Green has they call it a prosumer model, but it's called the NXR. I sold very few of those because it's a $13,000 mower, and it'll do 2.5 acres on a charge, but for a lot of people, that's just too much money to spend, unless they're sharing it. And I'm happy to talk about that if there's time. We're doing that in our community. We're sharing a Mean Green mower. And in the last 5 years or so, there's been a real explosion in the availability of robotic mowers. Has anybody on this meeting seen one of these or know anybody that has one? So it's the one that
I bet
started.
Porter will have one soon.
The Robo Mower was the first, I think. And the woman that publishes the Green Energy Times, you're probably familiar with that publication, comes out monthly or quarterly. She's become, I think she's the sales rep for them. But basically it works just like, I don't know, does anybody on the meeting have a robotic vacuum cleaner? No? So it's the same concept. Basically, you have a charging station and it knows to go back to the charging station, and you have to set up a perimeter. They work different ways, but usually you're setting up a line very similar to an invisible fence. And it mows like a couple times a week because it's not going to mow. It's not going to mow more than an inch at a time or so. I don't know exactly, but you don't have to do anything. It does it itself. The woman, the publisher of Green Energy Times, said she hadn't mowed her lawn in like 2 or 3 years. You know, anyway, there's a lot of choices out there for those as well. Then there's a lot of these handheld tools. And what's interesting to me, as difficult as it was to interest contractors that use conventional lawnmowers to switch to electric, in part because they're so expensive. But I have we'll talk about the difficulty of that later. But many contractors are now switching to electric hand tools because they're finding that they work just as well or better than the gas-powered equipment, and they don't have to worry about ethanol, vibration, fuel spilling, odor, emissions. The leaf blowers, most of them are pretty similar, although when you're trying to blow in the fall a big pile of leaves, some of these guys are telling me that they're still needing to use their big backpack gas mowers because the electric just aren't up to the task. But they're pretty incredible, the electric. I have 2 of them, and I would never have had a blower before until I started selling these equipment. I wanted to have a couple to try out, and I'll never turn back. It's such a great thing. I just bought a steel pole trimmer. I bought the whole steel, and so that's something when you go with one of these companies, you pretty much need to stay with them because you're going to get the charger. The battery is interchangeable. My first electric chainsaw was a DeWalt, and they're not known for their chainsaws. And now I've got a steel, but I still have the DeWalt blower and good stuff. But anyway, these are the Mean Green mowers that Jay is using and I used to sell. They were the first company to come out. They're based in Ohio. First company to come out with an electric mower about 10, 11 years ago. And Jay jumped on that pretty early. He was one of the first. There was one other person, I think, in Vermont that started before him up up in South Burlington. These guys probably started within a year of each other. But these things are incredible. They just came out with the next generation, essentially. That Evo is a 74-inch mower. And then the Rival is, touchscreen digital display. It's very high tech. In fact, I'm selling my demo. I have a Rival 60 that I'm selling now at a discount. And then up in the right, they're working on there's a couple companies that are coming out with autonomous commercial mowers as well now. And then there's Greenworks is the other major manufacturer of commercial electric mowers. It's a pretty good mower. Greenworks they're made in Asia, and they're probably not quite as good as the Mean Green, but and the runtime is a little less, so they're not going to work for contractors at this point. It's like a 4 or 5 hour runtime, which is not enough for most contractors. Who's using electric mowers? I just put this together last night. Greenside was the first, I think. Jay, is that true that Scott started before you?
He did, yeah. He was using for a year or two before I started. He just had a little electric push mower.
Oh, right.
Yeah, before he got his Mean Green. I think I had the Mean Green commercial equipment before him, but he was doing jobs with the handheld stuff.
So you guys were the leading edge, exactly. Really. You really were. And then the Heart and Soil is a conventional operation that just bought a mower this year. I thought he was going to buy a Mean Green. I don't know what he ended up with. He hasn't returned my calls. Don't know what happened, but he may have ended up with the Greenworks just because the price was lower. Unfortunately, he's going to find out the hard way that it's not going to work well for him. And then this KT Landscaping was an interesting story. They were the contractor for Wake Robin, right around the corner from me. And Wake Robin, the people there just said to the administration there, they were tired of listening to lawnmowers, and they finally got the management to tell KT Landscaping, either you go electric or we're finding another contractor. So they bought they also bought Greenworks, which anyway, it was unfortunate. He figured he was saving some money, but I don't think it's worked out well for them. And then Greener Lawn Care is the guy Scott that was just referred to with Jay. Then there's Bear Mountain, which is Jay. There's a company way up in Orleans, one guy. He just did the math. He wasn't into it for the environmental reasons. He just did the math, and he realized it was going to save him money. And he bought a Mean Green mower probably two or 3 years ago. And then there's a guy in Windsor who used to work for Sun Common. Tim Roper. Some of you may know him. He just started last year. And then this Zen Lawn and Garden in Waterbury area, they were just using a push mower, but I don't know what they're doing now these days. And then in terms of who's using these mowers in Vermont right now, and I'm just mostly familiar with the ones that bought Mean Green. There may be some more that are using Greenworks, but so Burlington Parks and Rec now owns 3 mowers. Just this year they bought them. Took me 3 years of marketing to them, I think. Burlington Electric Department bought one right after they created, or as part of their incentive that I'll talk about. My homeowners association has one that we share among 16 residences. Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation up in the Northwest bought a Mean Green a couple years ago. And then there's a farm. There might be a few others around. I can't, but there's a pretty good number now. I figure there's about 30 commercial electric lawnmowers being operated in Vermont. And that is up from about, one when Jay started. When was that? What year was that, Jay?
That was 2016.
2016. So in 5 years, we went from 1 to 30. Pretty amazing. And then here's just some pictures I just threw together. Top left was I was doing a demo for the Vermont Parks Department. They put an order in. I mean, once people see these things, like, oh, okay, this is a real deal. Dartmouth did the same thing, did a demo, put an order in within a month. The guy there looking on that stand-on mower, that's Churchill Landscape, Greener Lawn Care. Guy on the right is a homeowner. Guy on the left, second to the bottom, he's an old homeowner, just bought that mower this summer. Picture of the stretched out photo of the solar panel, that's Burlington Electric Department. Another homeowner. Me at the Warren Parade. Anybody go to the Warren Parade in the last few years? It's an amazing event if you've never been to it. Of course, they didn't do it this year, but 14,000 people show up for that event. That's Jay on the left, and then Dartmouth. Okay. So real briefly, I would just want to mention one of the things that I did to promote electric lawn care. I figured there should be incentives. So my first marketing call was to Green Mountain Power, and it took 18 months, but eventually they were able to get it together. No one had ever done this before, created an incentive based on greenhouse gas emission reductions for electric lawnmowers. So it had to go through a whole review process, and it was a $700 initially, and then they just kicked it up this summer to $2,500 because they told me they knew it was the right thing to do. And then they added a $50 residential electric mower incentive, following the lead of Burlington Electric, which was the next one. They launched this in the spring of 2019. It became the most popular incentive they've ever created. And they did it both for residential and the commercial. And you're reading that correctly. That is not a typo, $3,500. And the reason that it's $3,500 compared to, well, at the time, $700 GMP, was because 100% of Burlington Electric's energy comes from renewable sources. And these incentives are based on, it's a calculation based on greenhouse gas emission reductions. So that's why. And then I went up to the Vermont Electric Co-op meeting a couple of years ago, right around this time of year. Parked my mower. They were promoting their incentives for cars, EVs. Introduced myself to a bunch of the board members, showed them the mower. A month later, 2 months later, they created their own incentive. Did the same thing with Washington Electric. There you see theirs is 1,000, and same with Vermont Electric. And then I went to I didn't even know who these people were, but the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, which represents 12 member utilities up in Northeast Kingdom. And so that's that. Any questions so far? No questions? Okay. So one of the things that struck me when I first became this Northeast rep for Mean Green, I came into it with, as I go into most things, with a certain amount of unrestrained optimism, pathological, I guess, naivete, whatever. I thought this would be really easy. This is Vermont. But I really wasn't that tuned into the mowing industry, the lawn care industry, in terms of how much mowers cost. And immediately I started to realize that this was going to be a lot harder to do than I had thought. And so these are the reasons. Bias and skepticism, you can just, I don't need to go through this. There was just a lot of reasons. Including people don't really know, even among people, I was surprised, even people who are supportive of, are aware of, take climate change seriously and are trying to do things in their own life. it just, there was sort of a blind, the idea of lawn care just didn't seem to be that important. That's changing, fortunately. People like Sally calling me and saying, hey, let's talk about this. Then there's institutional barriers, big, the fact that these mowers cost 25% to 300% more than a conventional mower, that's a big lift. Even though the operating costs are so much lower, and it's a little even harder here in the Northeast because the savings in operating costs are based on the number of hours the mower is running. And if you're only mowing and for half the year or less than half the year, then you're only getting half the operational savings as you would if you lived in a climate where you're mowing 75% of the year or maybe even 100% of the year down in Florida. So that's an issue. The incentives are nice, but $2,500 off a $24,000 machine, it's tough. But people are doing it. And I've actually, because of that, I went to VSECU and asked them if they'd create a low interest loan program, which they did, which helps a little bit. I've actually made a suggestion to the legislature, people at the Climate Council, that they consider doing a reduced sales tax to make it basically revenue neutral. We'll see where that goes. But that would help also to cut the sales tax to, let's say, 3%, 4% instead of 6%. They'd still get the same amount of tax revenue, but it would save the customers some money. No incentives offered to Efficiency Vermont VIC, but that's because their mandate said up until now they can't do fuel switching. So, and then I have a document that I've written that gives some very specific suggestions of how to overcome these cultural and institutional barriers. And I'm not going to go through that now, but I'm happy to send it to folks afterwards. And then this taking action is another document that I produced that has some ideas for energy committees, for example, to how to approach a town and to start this conversation, collect data that's useful, and then go. So I think that's it.
Yeah. Steve, there's a question that came up in the chat. May I ask that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the few people I know, neighbors, who had electric mowers got rid of them because they truly were not as powerful, didn't hold a charge, made a sloppy cut. I hear you saying they've improved. Is there a place where they can be demoed or borrowed to try?
So I was trying to get out of this screen share. You can disable my screen share. It'd probably be the easiest way to do that. I guess the question would be, it'd be good to have some more information. Are we talking about these push mowers? Or are we talking about the riding mowers? Maybe it was a Newton. From what I've heard, the residential mowers are the mowers that are available now are really powerful, and the hardware stores that sell steel now have them. Whether they have one that can be demoed or not, I don't know. I used to do a lot of demos with my my commercial mower. I do have a steel. So anybody would be welcome to come check it out. But I think, Sally, this is one of the suggestions I had for you, is the role the Energy Committee could play is to find out who has them in your community and see if usually they'd be willing, people want to share this information. And so So, to set up kind of a local community demo, and it doesn't even have to be a certain day. You can just link people up together. And so they introduce themselves and then they set it up themselves to come over and check it out sometime. Or just even to talk to them, to hear, so. But I've heard
I
great
think that's
things
a good
about these
idea.
mowers.
I used a mower. I used a Newton for 10 years at the house I lived in over on Pine Street. The owner of the house was away for, 8 to 10 years, and I lived there and used her Newton and loved it. Now, it was a small yard. It cut the grass, and it was quiet and no exhaust. And I think I bought one new blade, and that was the entire amount of maintenance over 10 years. It's just like amazing.
So that's important though, in terms of maintenance, keeping blades sharp, keeping the deck clean, cleaning out underneath the deck after each mow so that the grass doesn't collect and dry, because that's going to impede the performance of the mower. So there's things that can be done to, but you're right, there is no, that's the only maintenance, is keeping the mowing deck clean and sharp, keeping the, sharpening the blades once a year or twice a year, depending on how much you're using it. So, and getting back to this sample, I do have a steel. My son used it. He started an electric mowing business this summer using my Mean Green. And then we bought a set of the steel equipment, the push mower and the string trimmer. And he used it and, it was fine, mowing really tall grass. So, yeah, anyway. And I'm happy to let someone come up and try it sometime, because I have it here. I'm not getting rid of it.
Well, I think it's a great idea to have an opportunity for people to use them, because you really don't know unless you felt it, and so that would be a great idea. Porter, thanks for bringing that up, and thank you for offering to have people test drive your steel. So any more questions about electric mowers at this point? Jay, do you want to say anything about your experience being a contractor for being a person who mows 1 million lawns with one of these mowers?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And first, I just want to make a quick point to Porter's question. As far as the residential push mowers go, it's very similar to the gas mowers that are out there, in that you get what you pay for. There are a lot of really low priced electric mowers out there. And even when you get into the higher priced units, you're also looking at a great balancing act, and you have to kind of identify what characteristics are important to you. I don't say I only like to mow my lawn every 2 weeks. So you might be looking then at a mower that's more powerful, but as a result, it might have less runtime. Or you might want a bigger cutting deck, or you might want self-propelled, and all of those things, will decrease the battery life. That said, you can also get into the machines like the steel that Stephen mentioned, and that's pretty darn close to a commercial machine, and that's going to suit anyone's needs. But it's definitely going to cost more than a lower end unit at Home Depot, but it is going to do the job. So that's why it would be so important to offer some demos around here, get people trying them out, seeing how they feel, and really, again, just getting a good solid understanding of what characteristics in the mower are most important to them. As far as my experience, this is all I've known. I've mowed a lot of grass throughout my life, but I was never in the commercial mowing business prior to the electric mowers. So it's really all I know. And, I'll admit there's definitely been some downsides to it. Even my commercial machine, if I get into a foot tall, really wet grass, it's going to struggle, but it will go through it. But as far as 98% of the properties and conditions I mow in, it's just amazing. The cut quality is comparable to a commercial gas mower. And at the same time, I'm not listening to the noise all day, or breathing in the fumes, or dealing with gas, or any of those things. simply go mow all day, and I get home and I plug my mower into the charger right on the trailer, and it's good to go for another 7 hours the next day. So it's a great way of life. And the way I got into it is going through struggles with my old gas mower on my own property, just not starting, mixing gas and smoking. And so it was a great jump. There's so many less headaches to go with the electric mowing. The maintenance is a lot less. The operating costs are a lot less. Obviously the CO2 emissions are a lot less, and just the amount of nasty fumes you're breathing is a lot less on your body as well.
Does anyone have any more questions for
That's
Jay?
great. I just wanted to add about follow up on Jay's comment about the different qualities of these mowers. It is very true. You get what you pay for. And what I found with the steel, for example, they have a lot of different options in terms of like battery capacity. And I've just learned from using like battery powered tools that whatever the biggest one that's available is going to be, you know, the one to go for, and just spend a little extra money. And the thing about the steel, the set that we got, the battery, it's the higher end battery, and it can be used in the mower. In the mower, you can actually put 2 in there. So if you need extra runtime, but that same battery is used for all the other tools too, like the string trimmer and the chainsaw, and I bought a pole pruner. They all just work on the same battery, one charger. And these batteries, I was amazed at how fast, like these batteries charged. I'm used to charging, you know, cars, and you know, even with a level 2, you're looking at 4 or 5 hours probably. You know, of course, it's a car versus a string trimmer, but you know, 15 minutes batteries charge. Now I got another 45 minutes, hour of charge time on a with a chainsaw. I mean, it's just crazy. But as Jay mentioned, you know, the steel is a bit pricier than the other equipment out there. But I've talked to a number of people who have the Ego, and they're happy with it. And I had this idea, this crazy idea that maybe I'll follow through, but of being able to setting up this like open source review website for electric lawn care equipment. It would have to be moderated, but you know, real people talking about their actual experience with these products, not people that are getting paid to, you know, push a particular product, which I think the Army guy might be, but he's still, you know, reviewing a lot of different ones. But again, we have Front Porch Forum, you know, it'd be a way, there would be a way for people to share this information. I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to be part of it. You know, I have a few different tools now, but I'd be happy to get some more. But anyway, so. Yeah.
Sounds great. Hi, Troy.
You know, it's interesting, you know, the points you made about weighing out all the trade-offs. My mom currently, my dad passed away, and my mom is now home alone. And my dad was like Mr. Lawn guy, like golf course, 2 acres up in Fairfield. And, you know, she never really, you know, participated much of that, but it was really important to her. She didn't want to mow the whole 2 acres, but she wanted to have some ownership of taking care of the property that she's still going to live in. And my brother and I made the decision with her that the way she could do that was to go to an electric handheld trimmer. So she could just do around her flower beds in the house and, you know, the simple stuff away from the road that gave her the, you know, the ownership to still be able to do it, but wasn't, because we didn't want her, much like we don't really want her burning wood anymore. Like, we're trying to eliminate obstacles to her independence as she gets older, but still allowing her to have that. So I think about the power of the ease when, like, there's things I'm not even thinking about. Like, I came to this meeting for the environmental reasons, but then you said not pulling on your cord 5 times, and I'm thinking about going out to my snowblower and wrestling with it in these winter days. And wow, that's all those are kind of really nice trade-offs at some point, that you think about what really is your priority and where do you want to go. But to echo that, I think you really do have to feel and touch something, because the balance, how it feels in your hand, especially these trim things, where the battery is placed, there's so many little nuances between some of the companies, that just feeling how things feel and where things are, I think is important when you're going to make an investment like that. So I would definitely recommend trying to lay hands on something as much as you can.
Jay, I'm curious what, thanks, Troy. That's good. Jay, what hand tools are you using?
Well, I started out with the Mean Green equipment as well. Back when I started 6 years ago, they also made a backpack blower and a trimmer. So I started with those. The trimmer has a really large, well, it's not really large, but the battery does require you to wear a backpack to carry it around. It weighs about 12 pounds, so it's not that bad. And the machine was great, and it has quite a lot of power, and I still use that same machine today. Wow. And then, so this was the first ever commercial grade string trimmer. So back then, 6 years ago, the cost was about $1,500 for it. And I've been using it religiously for 5 years. It's never let me down. And then this year, I wanted a backup. So I went to Taylor Rental in Middlebury here, and I got a Greenworks handheld trimmer. And I ended up getting a great deal, and I can't remember what I paid for it because I bought a bunch of other things too, a chainsaw and a pole trimmer and things like that. But I would say with a battery, it was probably around $300 or so. And that $300 machine right this year, last year in 2020, is just as good as the $1,500 machine I bought 5 years ago. I was really shocked by the performance and the power and the balance of it. Because I'm doing it commercially, I have multiple batteries, but even still, for a homeowner to have one battery would take care of all their needs. So I guess my point is the consumer grade equipment these days just keeps getting better and better and better, and the prices are finally starting to come down a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this comment that Troy made about the ease of, when we think about, in 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if people are it's going to be the exception that people are going to still be using gas powered string trimmers and maybe even mowers, just because it seems like it's such a
drag.
An old technology. What was that? Drag?
That's a drag.
You think about this internal combustion engine. It was a great invention for its time, but it's, compared to the electric motor, which I don't know if any of you know this. I just found this out. The town in Addison County begins with a B, not Barton, Bristol, no. On Route 7. They just did a major repair on the road. What town is that?
Brandon.
Brandon was where the electric motor was invented.
Wow.
They were gonna do this year, last summer, they were supposed to do, or maybe it was this summer. I think it was this summer, they were supposed to do, it was like the 100th anniversary. The guy that invented the electric motor was in Brandon. And so they had this whole thing. They were going to have electric vehicles, and it was going to have this big celebration to honor this former Brandon resident who invented electric motor. But I just thought that, what's that?
I just said that's great. I thought you were done.
Yeah. So anyway,
But go ahead.
I think that's where things are moving, and the idea of using, for me, like using I don't do a lot of chainsawing, but the little bit that I do, I was so glad to finally get rid of my gas chainsaw, because it's just such a pleasure to use an electric chainsaw compared to, and that's true with mowers. I was on a Kubota mower, diesel mower for many years before I got my Mean Green mower, and it's just a whole different experience.
Am I allowed to ask a
Chris?
question? I'm here.
Absolutely,
to present.
Chris.
Okay.
Go for it.
Jay, you've had commercial. It sounds like the Mean Green machines for a long time. Have you replaced a battery yet on any of those machines?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And just like, do you anticipate that you will change the battery before you swap out the whole machine, or what? Like, how do you think about that as a sort of consumable?
Yeah, when I purchased a machine, and I think they still say this now, is that the batteries are good for an average of about 8,000 hours. Is that correct, Stephen?
So it's 1,500 full charge cycles. So, and even then, it's only lost 10% of its capacity.
Yeah.
So 1,500, what's that?
1,500.
Full charge cycles. So if you're getting 5 hours off of a full charge, 5 times or 6, times 1,500. So that's where the 8,000 to 9,000 hours or more comes into play. So these batteries are going to last for a very, the mowers and the batteries themselves. The mowers are built really strong too. So, they're just going to go and go and go. See, most time, again, it's such a different paradigm. Most people that run conventional internal combustion engine mowers have to change those out every 3, 4, 5, 6 years because everything starts. There's so many things that can go wrong with them: fuel systems, cooling systems, drive systems. Not so many things. And so these mowers are gonna. If you try and find a used Mean Green mower, it's almost impossible because people just hang on to them because they just go and go and go. So it's a good question, though, and those batteries are very expensive. Those are, those batteries. That battery and one of Jay's batteries, it's a $3,500 battery. So and that price is probably going to be coming down over time, thanks to Elon Musk. But they are pricey. So, but they're going to keep going. I got to go in 3 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Jay, did you have anything more you wanted to add to that?
No, I just wanted to add that, basically by the time the lifespan of the battery is up, the mower is going to be ready to retire anyway, although there's not a lot of moving parts on it or things to go wrong, things that you're using on a daily commercial basis are just going to wear out after 7, 8, 9 years. So, luckily for me, the batteries just aren't a concern that I have to worry about.
Well, I will just add to that, the other moving part besides the wheels are the electric motors, and those motors can be replaced. Like the blade motor is like for $350.
Yeah, they're not even that much. Yeah, they're even less than that. They're two something.
And then and you can replace it yourself. So easy. The drive motors are a little bigger, a little more complicated, but I've seen them replaced. They're not that big a deal. You just pull the motor off or the wheel off, and you jack up the back end and a couple bolts, and you take it out, unplug it. It's like, there you go. And even so, the drive motors may be more like $400. But those are going to just keep going and going and going. So theoretically, you could replace all 3 blade motors and the 2 drive motors for probably under, what is that? 6, I don't know, under $1,500 probably. There you go. If you even need to replace them. So these mowers are going to be around for a long, long time. Anyway, real pleasure doing this. Happy to do it again.
Thank you so much.
Happy to take questions later. Send that, that document that I mentioned. But Jay, great seeing you. Congratulations on your going into your 7th year and
going into 6.
6.
Yeah.
Great. Well, pretty soon we're going to hear from 2 guys who are going to be talking about generating the electricity for those
There you
mowers.
go. And I may be investing if that's the
Chris.
project in Bristol. I was curious about it. So if that's a community
Yeah.
project. Anyway, thank you so much.
That's a different one.
No,
That's a different one, but yeah. You're
All right.
welcome. Have a good night.
so long. So long, everybody.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was great to have definitely have a good blast of learning about electric mowers. Does anyone have any other questions for Jay or anything else they want to say about electric mowing right now? All right. I'll say one thing, and that is I heard that Richard Butts here in Bristol got some sort of an electric mower that also is kind of a high-end residential machine that also blows snow too. Snow blower, lawnmower, and some other thing too. I'm not sure what the other thing is. I don't think maybe it's a leaf blower too. I don't really know, but.
Barber.
And I think it starts with, what is it?
I was making a joke that maybe it's also a barber.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, Jay, is there anything more you wanted to share about like what's it like to get into the lawn mowing business? I mean, do you want to share anything with
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's something I've really enjoyed, and I kind of fell into it by accident years ago when I couldn't get my gas machine started. So I started looking for an electric mower for my household, which is how I stumbled upon the commercial grade electric mowers, and I didn't even know they existed. At the time, I was just in a job I had been in for 9 years and was ready to make a change. So I thought, wow, that could be a really good business model around here. So I took the leap and it's worked out well. And, it's clearly the wave of the future. The technology just keeps improving and the prices are coming down. So that's a great thing. You look at very environmentally friendly states like California, they've banned electric or gas powered leaf blowers. You're not even allowed to use those anymore, the commercial guys. And, it's only a matter of time before they ban the gas mowers too. So, it's just a great way to operate. The technology is advanced to the point where they're comparable with gas machines. So there's really just no reason not to make the leap right now, whether you're a commercial operator or just looking for a better way to run your household.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. So, Troy, how about you? Do you feel satisfied with the lawn mowing conversation, ready to go into solar?
Yeah, I think, the commercial and the homeowner side are so different because, I can mow half my lawn and call it a day and mow the other half of my lawn when I get to it. Whereas Jay's got to mow all day. So his needs are far different than mine. So I think that with just adjusting how we think about what we do and how and when we do it allows all of this to be possible. It's just we get used to the technology we have in our hand. So if we all of a sudden didn't have any gas lawnmowers, we would just figure out how to mow our lawns for the charge we had or share them, or like it just, we do what we do based on, we're creatures of a comfort and habit. So, but I'd love to hear some of the stuff about solar. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. All right. So, Nathaniel and Chris, you can share your updates with the array that you're working on over the Lathrop Plateau in Bristol off of South Street is what we're talking about.
And we did a presentation to the Town Planning Commission last night. So we have everything in a PowerPoint that we could run through really quickly if you would give me sharing. Yes.
Troy, did you want to ask something?
Well, sorry, I have a quick question. Am I now in an? Are you guys in an official meeting that I'm not supposed to be in or shouldn't be in?
Oh,
or-
no. This is totally open for the public.
Oh,
We're
okay.
so
I just wanted
we're
to
so
make sure.
glad you're here. Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
wanted to
This
make
is.
sure.
I was hoping more people would show up and want to talk about sharing electric mowers in town and how we could do that, but that'll be another meeting, I think.
Great.
But the
Wait a
two
second.
things.
Okay,
Let me try. Okay, cool.
I just set you up to be able to share your screen, I think.
Good. Can you see it?
Yep.
Great. So why don't we just run through it? And it is pretty detailed, and we have covered quite a bit of this information in the past. But I think it's just worth going through so the as many people as possible can see this as we move through. So with that, Nathaniel, I'll turn the floor over to you and try to stay ahead of you as we move through the slides.
Cool. Yeah, feel free to interrupt me or raise your hand or whatever if you have questions along the way. So anyway, just short intro. Green Peak Solar is Vermont owned and based. Chris and I are the principals. We're a renewable energy developer. We're also working on battery energy storage projects for the last couple of years. We work mostly with utilities directly, towns and school districts. We tend to develop projects on the larger size, which are more of a wholesale generator versus a net metering project. And in doing so, we've developed some of the lowest cost solar projects for Vermont ratepayers. So here's a map of where the project is located. Basically, you know, the center of the map where it says Bristol, that's the intersection right by the town offices. The project is located on a plateau. Basically, if you get on South Street and cross the New Haven, Cane Hill Road is kind of right across the road. It goes up to the top of this hill, and it's about a 20-acre field where the project is located. That's kind of tucked away. We've got some photos we'll show you in the next couple of slides. So there's a photo looking basically from Main Street, just east of town, looking across where the pump house is. The plateau is kind of on the other side of the river where the arrows are pointing to. So we feel like this is a pretty good location from an aesthetics perspective because there's the, this is obviously leaf off conditions with snow on the ground. So it's really going to be your most impactful view shed. And it's even still, it's pretty, it's relatively screened from a screening perspective. And then the last one is from the Creamy Stand. So again, quite a lot of natural screening for this project, which is one of the most important attributes that we look for when we're looking for these projects. So project outreach, just a little bit of background. We started talking with the landowners about a year ago. At the same time, we recognized the town was going through an enhanced energy plan process. And we had some questions about this preferred site designation. This project is not net metering. So there is in net metering, the preferred site designation refers to a different rate class. We're selling directly to the utilities. So that's not necessarily pertinent to us, but we basically reached out to the town to see if there were any red flags with the project being, in its location outside of what the town was in the process of designating preferred areas. And at that time, the feedback we got was that, that projects aren't prohibited, that the planning process wasn't really dedicated towards identifying certain specific parcels of land. And it seemed like, based on the feedback we received, that, that we decided to pursue the project a little further. So throughout the summer, we spent time securing the contracts to sell the power, working with the utilities. We bid the project into an RFP, and we're the lowest priced bidder. And then we really started our outreach again this fall. We've reached out to all the abutting property owners next to the site. We've reached out to the town on a number of occasions. And recently we provided a 45-day notice, which is a packet of basically information discussing the project and, our intent to file a petition for a permit with the certificate with the Public Utility Commission. So benefits to Bristol, you guys have a super, really great town plan. You're adopting the 90 by 50 goals, which is basically 90% of the total energy in 2050 to come from renewable resources, which is a really awesome goal. What that translates into is about 7,600 megawatt hours of electricity from renewables by 2025 and 16,000 megawatt hours of renewable energy by 2050. Based on some publicly available data, my estimate and what you guys were having the town plan is, I think it was, you're at around 3,600 megawatt hours today. So the addition of this project will add about 4,500 megawatt hours, which after its first year of, after development and operations, you guys will be right on track to meet your 2025 goals with the addition of this project. We'll talk about the structure of the project a little bit, but other benefits. Last time, I think, Sally, we had quoted it was 11,000 in property taxes. That's just the municipal portion. There's an additional 8,000 that would go towards the education fund. I don't know if you guys all notice on your tax bill, there's your municipal bill, and then there's the education fund. So we just wanted to give the total number. We're also proposing an energy storage project right next to the battery to basically leverage some of the shared infrastructure. It's a really great place on the grid to have energy storage, and it would help to add reliability. And really that's consistent with the draft town plan, which talks about, if larger projects are done, that there should really be a component of battery energy storage. And that's been something we've been working on, some standalone battery energy storage projects in Vermont, which we're really excited about as well. Again, we talked about the preferred location piece. Again, it's not it's preferred, but it's not prohibited in this location. We also feel like this site is really consistent with a lot of the other proposed siting criteria in the town. And we could talk about that in a second when we get to the site plan. Lastly, we talked about this with the Planning Commission specifically last night, is that one thing towns are often really interested in is visual screening. Because, as you can see from these projects, there's pretty significant natural screening. We haven't proposed any screening for this project, but one request which the Planning Commission asked was that, could we basically revisit screening after the project is built in the event that, there's some areas that we didn't anticipate, can we add some screening later on? And so just like really any other comments that folks have, we really want this to be a collaborative process. We think that's a great idea. We're going to basically, in our certificate of good filing, we're going to make that commitment to work with the town of Bristol to do that site visit. And really, we're open to feedback on anything else. And then one of the other things that's come up that we talked about sounds like there's some recreational use of this property, at least as a kind of gateway to some of the wooded areas further east. So we're trying to make sure that the fence is designed, or we are going to make sure the fence is designed so that it's set back from the perimeter of the field, so that folks can still access the surrounding land via this parcel. So this project is not a net metering project, and what that means is it's more akin to a wholesale project. We'll actually sell all the power and the environmental attributes, the RECs, to Vermont utilities. So that process came out of what's called the Standard Offer Program, which is an annual RFP run by the state to basically give out power purchase agreements to the lowest price projects. And this one was actually the lowest priced bid in 2020 RFP. And so we'd be selling power at just under 9 cents kilowatt hour, which is pretty close to half of what the current net metering credit is. So we really feel like these projects are a great way to demonstrate a mixture of renewables that are not only at folks' residences, but also just really low cost that helps to bring down the cost of renewables to all ratepayers. So this is not a project where it's community members have to subscribe, but everybody as a Vermont ratepayer, will be basically, this project will be added into your fuel mix as a renewable generator, and it'll help to keep your energy prices low and hopefully actually reduce energy prices over time. We already talked a little bit about the battery, but basically battery is it's relatively straightforward use case. As we see more and more solar coming on, we're also seeing peaks shift away from the daytime hours when the solar is producing. So having a battery at this location really adds the ability to use that battery to target peak hours as they shift away from daytime. And that also helps with reliability, reduces transmission charges. As we see electrification of mowers, EVs, heat pumps, we're expecting load to grow. And by having a battery that helps to keep those peaks low, we really are trying to save and defer transmission and distribution system investments. So we're really excited about the battery project as well. Lastly, we also are considering opportunities for dual use agriculture, planting pollinator friendly seeds. Currently, the field is in corn. And so, we feel like reclaiming it, planting it with pollinator friendly seeds will be a great start. And then we're also really open to other ideas around, grazing practices with sheep, kind of et cetera. So we're pretty interested in the dual use opportunity. And then certainly we only mow it once a year, Jay. So I don't know if it gets pretty long. Usually they're brush hogged more than mown, but I love the idea of not having a gas powered mower out here. I think that'd be pretty cool. So this is the site plan. As you can see, we're taking up pretty much most of the 20-acre field. The battery energy storage is located in the top left. We'd be accessing both projects off of Cane Hill Road. So using existing road off of South Street. So no new driveway, no new curb cuts off of the existing road. There'd be some traffic during construction, obviously, but afterwards, really quite minimal. These projects are monitored remotely 24/7. Really, it's maybe once a quarter somebody goes out and does preventative maintenance, or you roll a truck to go check a fuse that the alarm, some preventative maintenance like that. So quite low traffic. Other great attributes of the site, we already talked about it, the visibility, really trying to reduce glare, sound to any nearby residences. We've done all of our environmental studies, had consultations with the Agency of Natural Resources. There's no wetlands. We're out of the floodplain. We're out of the river corridors. Really, from an environmental perspective, the site doesn't have a lot of impacts. No necessary wildlife habitat. And then for the agricultural soils, we're going to be committing to the Agency of Agriculture's requirements to basically stockpile all prime ag soils on the site and then reclaim them based on soil horizon when the project is done. And the project will have a decommissioning letter of credit that's required from the Public Utility Commission, so that basically secures our commitment to that reclamation. So if something were to happen and the project were stopped making money, it's not, and Chris and I are all gone or whatever, there's money that's at the Public Utility Commission to secure, to make sure that this project will be decommissioned and the land can be returned to what it's used for today. Lastly, we're proposing it's not that unique anymore, but somewhat novel for Vermont anyway, technology. It's called a single axis tracker. So it looked relatively similar to a fixed tilt system that you might see regularly, but with the exception that the rows tilt east to west throughout the day. And so what you can see here, this is an example 2.2 megawatt project that's a single axis tracker. The inverter is in the middle, and then each of these rows rotates east to west. And then down in the lower right, you can see this is what they look like up close, and they rotate around the torque tube where the red arrows are. So, and by using the single axis tracker, for us, it's the most cost-effective way to get the most electricity production out of the land use. So our goal is always to try to increase our energy density, and we recognize the importance of land in Vermont, and so we really try to do our best to make sure we're going to squeeze as much energy out of it as we can. So that's it, Sally. That was
We gave you the full presentation.
Yeah, we did. I figured there's new folks on the line, so
Awesome.
eventually you'll get sick of us.
And
That's great. I learn more every time.
And Sally, I know that you and your committee was really interested in learning specifically around the benefits to Bristol, because the energy is going to all Vermonters.
Yeah.
We spent a little bit more time learning more about the Bristol specific 90 by 50 goals. So, I mean, to the extent that you guys have questions about this slide specifically, happy to go into more detail as needed.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, totally. Troy.
I tell me if I'm out of bounds, because I'm not on the energy committee or on any town committees. So I just speak as a interested resident and taxpayer. But I know that we've talked about at the rec club, solar power. We can't really put it on our property. We thought about putting it up on the grandstand on the roof, which is probably something much smaller than what you guys do. But we were trying to figure out a way to sort of make our property, we don't use a lot of electricity, and we're a nonprofit. We really just exist for the benefit of the community. So we're just trying to figure out how to make ourselves almost net zero, right? If we put, 20 solar squares on top of the grandstand and fed it into the meter or the net, wherever, in essence, could we almost be, net zero? But the other thing we've talked about, and I'm sure the Energy Committee has talked about this, is we really should have some charging stations for cars around town. We're a big tourist town. Quite a bit of the year, and a lot of people come through, especially in the fall, come through for weddings. And as more and more people come in with electric cars and don't have the infrastructure like a resident would have, how do we get some either at the rec club, so while they're playing tennis or doing something on the grounds, or at the park? How do we potentially take a project like this and could we potentially ask the town to earmark those property taxes for chargers for cars? Could that be? I don't know how that works.
I am so glad you're here asking these questions, Troy. We've tried to get chargers in town for the past 3 years, and for different reasons, it's fallen through. We're going to try again. But the idea that you're bringing up is maybe you want a charger over there near the Bristol rec area or something. That's another great that's a great idea. So I'm definitely going to be thinking of how we can do that. And I like your idea of some of the taxes going into that. That sounds great. That might be a way to do the money thing for the town. We're also going to talk to GMP and see what their latest incentives are and see what they can do. And I'm working with the CEAC, which is the Climate Economy Action Center. And we're hoping to get another round of some good deal on chargers for towns in Addison County. So that's another project that's coming up. So it would be great to stay in touch with you to see, if Bristol Rec wants to be a part of that, especially if you're going to get an electric mower.
Well, I just think about all these things, like you guys, Green Mountain Solar, have you done any of those projects where they literally build over the parking lots, the giant, I guess they're carports is what I would call them.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
elevated solar field, like our high school parking lot is sitting in the sun 12 hours a day.
So I've actually gone to a couple of meetings with the school board. Is it Alden who's the superintendent? Yeah, we met with him a couple of years ago. The standard offer program that we bid into had a specific carve out, which is unfortunately they're not continuing it, but for carports as kind of a pilot project. The issue with a carport is it's a lot more expensive to design and install than a project like this, because you're elevated, up 10, 11 feet. So you're going to catch a lot more wind. You have to pressures have to be stronger in case somebody bumps into them with their car. But anyway, the state had a program, which I thought was fantastic, to look at carports. We had some discussion with the school district about it at that time. But unfortunately, it was just, there wasn't enough time to be able to get it done to bid the RFP. And way, it's the kind of opportunity to do that is not there. But I totally agree. It seemed like a fantastic spot, and something we don't typically develop projects at the scale that you're talking about. But if there's things we can do to help with the rec club in terms of like giving you an indicative, like we have some software that we use to size a system, show you what it would look like, give you kind of general size of the array. Happy to help out with that stuff. I mean, if we can contribute to the community in other ways that help more people go renewable, I think that's our goal. So yeah, I think if we can help with that, we'd be happy to. And then certainly the EV chargers, that I find that to be I live over in Waitsfield, and I'm always wishing we had more. It's pretty remarkable that that neither of the supermarkets in town have an EV charger in front of them, and that's kind of a bummer.
So a couple more things too about that is, do you know the charger that's in Middlebury by the river, kind of by American Flatbread? I don't know if you've seen that, but it's a timber frame, a beautiful timber frame, awning-like thing that Will Gusikoff built with solar panels on it. And there are a couple of chargers under there. It's beautiful. And he is willing to build those. That's one idea. Here's another way you can probably get inexpensive solar. And that is Acorn Energy Co-op is going to put an array, a 500 kilowatt array on the dump, the old landfill. And you can buy into that at probably less than what it would cost you to put it on your roof or build your own. Oh. So and we've got your name down. It's already on a spreadsheet we're going to talk to all the nonprofits in town and all the residents and all the churches and businesses to see who wants to subscribe, because it's, we just don't have I haven't got the paperwork from them yet. It's not quite ready, but hopefully within a month we'll be, sending everyone in Bristol an opportunity to sign on to that, because Bristol residents will get first dibs as well as nonprofits and that kind of thing.
Wow, great. Awesome. Yeah. I look forward to hearing about that.
Great.
Yeah, it's, back to the car chargers, my high school, I teach up at CVU, and we put in like when we did something, all of a sudden just two of those plunked in. And I literally think it was 2 kids or 3 kids from the energy committee of the school, the environmental action club.
Oh yeah.
Literally like beat on the doors of Green Mountain Power or somebody and like got them put in. I don't know how they did it, but kids can work magic, because nobody likes to say no to a 16-year-old trying to save the planet. Yeah.
That's great. I think we should talk to the environmental action group at Mount Abe and see if they would, see if they can go to GMP. It's true. They'll get much more
traction.
More action. Yeah. That's great.
Can I ask one more question just on the educator side because I'm an educator for Green Peak Solar guys. Is there a way to incorporate and I know it wouldn't be your job, but is there a way to figure out how to incorporate an educational aspect of this project to be sort of ongoing, so that the kids at Mount Abe or at the elementary schools could come down and like see the grid and understand the grid? Maybe the meter could, through a computer system, be pumped right into the science class at school, so, or the engineering class, so they can literally like do work on, crunching the numbers, understanding these things.
Sure. So we did a remote net metered project actually on premises for the Williamstown School District. And there we put up a kiosk. Nothing too fancy. It's wooden, has a small roof on it, but it just has all the information about the project. In terms of the like piping information to the school, I mean, I would certainly be happy to come talk to people and kids if they're interested, and sort of give them a little bit more science-based presentation around what it is that we're doing, especially around the battery side and the peak shifting that and peak shaving that it will be doing. Should be pretty interesting to people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if anybody in Vermont is following what's going on in Texas, but I'm getting phone calls from people who've never really cared about electricity before, and all of a sudden everybody cares as soon as they're rolling blackouts. So, I mean, luckily in Vermont, we have a little bit more of a conservative approach to both infrastructure and the market here. So I don't think we're necessarily at risk for things like that here. But I mean, Green Mountain Power is doing a pretty phenomenal job of kind of leading the way in terms of what our energy future can be, including battery storage. So that's a long-winded answer of saying, I mean, the reason why we come to these meetings is specifically to find ways to engage with the community in ways other than paying property taxes. So I mean, I think we would really like to engage and help you think about your rec club as well as education, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think about just the kids, because, we keep saying the next generation's going to figure it out. The next generation's going to figure it out. Well, we're starting to, but they're really going to have to figure things out moving forward. And the more information they have, the more they've been exposed to these things, the more problems they'll solve.
Yeah. Troy, you're reminding me of what
you kicked out.
What Acorn Energy Co-op promised to do, and that is, since they're building an array right at the dump, which is right next to the high school, they said they could wire something into.
Could you let Nathaniel back in? I guess his internet cut out for a second. Oh, there's Lindsay.
It really is Lindsay. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, everybody. Sorry. Yeah. Momentary lapse in internet resulted in a quarantine, a non-COVID quarantine.
We signed you up for 6 jobs. Don't worry.
Awesome.
You're teaching a class, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that this could be a nice mix between all of the solar folks, because Acorn said that they will somehow wire something into the school so that students could see in real time what's going on in the array on the dump.
Yeah.
But then, and then they could do something like walk over to the other array at the plateau there and see what's going on there. There could be all kinds of educational things around this, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome. the more of that, the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to go.
And you know
Oh,
Okay.
I have to go. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time and effort to put this all together.
Yeah.
Very helpful for me as a resident, but also as a person who organizes the rec club. And I'm always looking for ways to be involved in town. So I really appreciate everybody's effort. So thank you very much. And Sally, definitely
Thanks,
keep in touch with us about opportunities for the rec club
I
to get into that
Thank
site.
you.
Great. Thanks. Good to see you, Mike. Bye. Nice to meet you guys.
Definitely.
Cheers.
Thrilled. Good to see you, Troy. Bye-bye. Well, this has been a fun meeting. Oh, I can't hear you, Mike. You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I'm a retired educator here in Vermont, in Bristol, and we have a solar system here at home, and we have software. I shouldn't say software, an app, and we're able to download in real time what's happening with our system. At the commercial level, is there something similar where, as we talked about, being able to involve schools, where you just open up the app and you can see what each panel's being, how much they're generating, what did you do for a particular day, month, year, getting all the graphs and all that kind of cool stuff. Is that available?
Absolutely, yeah. We don't monitor down to the panel level like you might on a residential structure, but we'll typically monitor to at least the inverter level, or in some cases, like sub-inverter level or string level, which would be kind of the smallest size might be 20 panels. But typically you're talking more like at the inverter level. So you're talking 100 kilowatts. But yeah, we absolutely have remote monitoring. And we'd be happy to make that
like a website. How would we do
that? We could provide a website that would provide access to the production data. It's not quite real time, but it's pretty darn close. We actually have a project that we own in Williamstown that's at the Williamstown High School.
You were logged off, but I've already let them know.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so we provide them with that same data right from the website. So it's actually it would be really easy if Acorn's setting up a monitor, if we can help set up a monitor, if you guys wanted that, or if you just wanted to incorporate it in the classroom, like we'll absolutely make that happen. It's
That's great.
Yeah, it's totally shareable. Yeah, which is really cool because it'd be really interesting to see this project in addition to the I'm not sure what Acorn is proposing, but in addition to the single axis tracker, we're also seeing a real emergence in what's called bifacial solar modules. So instead of having glass on one side and a backsheet on the other side, glass on glass. So the cells can actually take energy from both the underside and the top side. And it's a relatively new, it's just a change in manufacturing process, but it's the combination of the tracker, which helps you shed the snow earlier, and a bifacial module, which helps you absorb light, create current, get a little bit of heat in the module to dump the snow. Mm-hmm. We think that a lot of the models are kind of under predicting the production. We're actually going to see this. My guess is that this will be one of the highest producing sites in the state.
That's awesome.
Well, I like that concept because I'm tired of climbing up there with a roof rake.
Yeah. Yeah, this winter rather has been absolutely brutal. I drive by the town of Waitsfield has an array at our gravel pit, and I drive by and I get the emails from our system in Williamstown, and it's like the snow just with these cold temps doesn't melt, doesn't shed very well, but
right.
Do you think that the tipping will help it shed faster?
Absolutely.
Is it tip more than? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so your traditional fixed tilt array in Vermont is like between 25 and 30 degrees tilt. And these, and that would be oriented due south, right? So what a lot of people don't realize is like what in the summertime, the sun actually gets like to be more than overhead, right? So when the sun is almost more than overhead, you know, the angle of the sun coming on your array is not directly perpendicular. So these arrays being flat oriented north-south, they track the sun throughout the day like this, which is really cool. But because they tilt to 60 degrees
60
in either direction, they're able to shed snow a lot more easily. They're not like mechanically designed to be able to take 12 inches and just kind of shake it off. But when they're at that stow angle or that tilt angle, and when it's snowing throughout the day, they're going to shed, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Neat.
Yeah, great stuff.
Cool. Yeah, really good. I'm so glad you guys showed up tonight. It was good to hear this again and have a new, slideshow to put out there for people to look at. And
cool.
And it was very concise, compact. Yeah.
Right.
We had a little practice from last night, so.
Yeah. So yeah, great.
I got to ask Chris a question before we go.
Sure.
Is your family originally from the Pittsford area? Would be a parent, maybe a father?
I'm sitting in Pittsford. Yeah, I don't know which uncle you're referring to or my father, but yeah, there were 6.
Yeah.
Ashley, Steve, Jared, Michael, Alden, Jason. Which one?
Yeah. Alden and Jared. I was a soccer coach, so the guys who were involved with Green Mountain Valley, I knew well.
Oh yeah, great.
I was a soccer player, and I grew up in Proctor, so there were a number of connections.
Well, great to see you.
Yeah,
great to meet you.
Who is your dad?
Ashley.
Okay, all right.
Yep. Number 1. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I hope you guys have a great night. And
yeah, thanks.
We'll just keep you, we're working with the planning commission on this, on, the screening commitment. So we'll continue to be in touch with you, and,
great.
Keep you updated, as we kind of move through this process. The next step for us is we're going to be submitting the petition, but, if there are, questions, or you guys can think of, I could talk to Leslie, our counsel, about adding something in there about providing monitoring to the high school, or providing data. So
and I didn't get the gentleman's information at the rec club.
Great.
I should have asked for that.
Troy Parody. Yeah, Troy Parody. Maybe I can get his info and send it to you.
That would be great, because we can definitely lend a hand there too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Cool, guys. Well,
nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Hey, good night.
Buy an electric.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Nice.
Great. Hey, Sean, we're going to close up now. Thanks so much for recording, and have a good night.